Hi everyone, it's Gareth here again from Picth, and today I'm joined by Mr. Aaron Whiffin from Picth, a web development agency here in Salisbury on the south coast. You are in Salisbury, aren't you?
Yep, you're just
Yeah,
around
you
the corner
are.
from you, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I just suddenly had a thought in my head there, but is Aaron not based in Salisbury? Yeah, but you are, aren't you? So yes, Aaron's a web development specialist down here in Salisbury, and today we are going to be talking about speculative work. I'll dig into a reason why we're talking about that in just a moment, but I'll just quickly introduce Aaron and our relationship since well, how we met and how we know each other now. So I go to a weekly networking meeting online, and I have done through all of lockdown, called the Boardroom Network, and that is where I met Aaron. So we had a chat. Our businesses have a lot of synergy. There's potential to collaborate as well with what we do. So when I eventually moved down here to Salisbury, we went for a pint and a burger and a chat, and we've stayed in touch ever since. We've done a couple of project quotes in recent weeks as well, so hoping to kick off some interesting project work over the course of 2021. And that's how we know each other, and we've got some very similar opinions on different aspects of the industry that we work in. So we're going to dig into speculative work today, but before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'm going to pass over to Aaron, and he is going to introduce himself in more detail and his business, and tell us about the interesting and weird and wonderful world of Picth. So over to you, buddy.
Hello, everybody. So I run Picth. It's a web agency. There's 7 of us. We've been established in one form or another since 2001. So before Google and Facebook and everything else. So we've really been there. We were selling in online shops when no one knew what an online shop was, which was a hard sell. These days, we do everything you'd expect a web agency to do. We build websites, we make them look pretty, we get them up Google, we get you sales and conversions and everything that every other web designer is probably going to tell you. We do things properly, and by that I mean we've got 5, I think it's 5 awards for our designs now. We're also very technical, so we don't mind. It doesn't have to be built in WordPress or a custom system. We will work on literally any platform you want. We will take on other people's work. We will do security audits. We take on hacked websites. We can finish ones that are half built. So for us, we do, I say run of the mill, sounds a bit bad, but we do normal websites, but we also like doing all the really big, complicated things for larger companies.
Yeah, I've seen your portfolio, and it really is varied, isn't it? It sort of stretches from your sort of very simple websites in the greater scheme of things, a simple single pager with maybe a couple of contact forms in, right up to like large sort of database driven with multiple platforms for logins and all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the back end. So it is a very broad spectrum of clients you have, isn't it?
Absolutely. Some of our ones don't use their website. It's more of a back-end administration system that they use. We've built classified systems from the ground up, literally wrote the whole bit of code. We've linked to different payment gateways. We've made sites with 1 million pages and done the SEO for that. So yeah, we really have, we've got a whole range of, we work from literally a 1-page website for a window cleaner, for example, all the way up to running 18 sites for a PLC. We've worked with some big names out there as well. So pretty much anything, with the only criteria is people want it done properly.
Yeah, that's important to remember for the purposes of this discussion, as well as we get into the nitty gritty later. So today we are going to be talking about speculative work, and there is a good reason for this, and the why behind this topic is basically centered around a LinkedIn post that I put up probably about a month ago now, maybe 3 or 4 weeks back, where I had been approached by a new customer that I've not targeted. He basically called up after seeing my pickup truck parked up. And for those who listen to this who don't know what my pickup truck looks like, if you saw it, you would definitely remember it. It's Aaron's seen it, and it's pretty eye-catching. It's got graphics, nicely designed graphics all around it that promote my business. from distance, like very well. So this guy had seen the pickup truck, and he liked what he saw. So he took my number down, and a few days later he called me up. He'd seen me driving around in it, and he called me up and said, "I like your truck. I'd like you to do the same for my fleet of vehicles." His fleet of vehicles was 2 Ford Transit, Ford Ranger, and he proceeded to explain to me what he wanted, what he liked, and then his attitude was basically, "Do me the work, do me the design. If I like it, I'll pay you." And that then entered into a conversation of, well, that's not really how it works. When you work with designers, developers, anyone in the creative sphere who is professional and established and good at what they do, you will pay for that service rather than, doing it on the hoof, hoping that somebody likes it and pays you for it. And I tried to explain this to him, and ultimately the conversation fizzled out, and I never heard from him again. He wasn't prepared to pay for something that he couldn't see before he parted with his cash. And I put a post onto LinkedIn describing this scenario, and I had a real interesting 50-50 split between people who were responding to me in agreement with my standpoint that this is fundamentally wrong, and also another 50% of people like criticizing my attitude, which was quite interesting actually, because I didn't think my attitude was particularly negative about it. Obviously I was frustrated, but basically my thoughts are that everyone wants something for free. I get that, everyone wants a good deal, but it's wrong to expect people to work for free. This guy was a roofing contractor. He wanted to, if I'd have approached him and said, "Right, I need you to fix my roof, get up your ladder, fix it, take some pictures. If I like what I see, I'll pay you for it." I can imagine what he would have told me to do had I proposed that, and it would have probably been a lot less professional than my response to him, shall we say. So that's where this all came from. Aaron commented on that post with a really interesting article on a blog he wrote about speculative work. I can't remember how long ago, but it's a really, really interesting piece, and everything in there I thoroughly agree with, and that's why we're here today to chat about it. So talk to me about your attitude to speculative work, if you wouldn't mind, Aaron.
I think if you're, as a designer or creative, if you're good at what you do, you shouldn't have to do the speculative work. Your reputation should speak for you. So there's a lot of reasons why we won't, which I'll get into. But first of all, it's the name of a client that we've got. I won't mention him by name, but you can look on our Speak to Us, we'll tell you. But he is a portrait painter. An exceptionally good one. He does all the royal paintings that hang in the palaces and things like that. So he's exceptionally good at what he does. Yeah. He spends a long time and charges a lot of money to paint a picture of the royal family, or whatever it's going to be, the portrait. You wouldn't ask him. The paints don't cost much for acrylic paints, or whatever he's going to colour them in. The materials aren't a lot. You wouldn't ask him to spend 3 weeks painting a picture and then say, "I'll pay you if I like it." You look at his other work to see that you like his style, and it is a particular style. And if you like it, you choose him. You look at you see who he's worked for, the royal family. I'm pretty sure if it's good enough for the Queen, it's going to be good enough for me. So with him, people wouldn't even contemplate asking him to do that. But with this design work that we do, I feel that people ask it quite a long time. But the issue is, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that people think that a designer, a web designer, graphic designer, interior designer, anyone like that, they knock something together or some designs together, and then the hard part is just touching it up. Whilst in reality, we don't knock something up. So knocking up a design as such could take days and weeks if it's a big project, because we can't just make a design. We need to chat to the customer to find out what is it, if they're a solicitor, what kind of solicitor, what image do they want? Are they a modern solicitor? Are they a classic solicitor? Are they criminal law or personal law or business law? There's so many questions we need to answer about them and their company before we could even think about making a design. A design for us, a designer, is the last thing we get to, not the first thing we get to. So for us to do a speculative design, if we knocked one up in a couple of hours to show it to a client, they're never going to choose it because it's going to look awful because we haven't put any thought into it, and we're not doing ourselves any justice, and we're not doing them any justice. So I think that's where the confusion lies, that people think we knock something up and then pay them to give them the file. Well, in actual fact, we're charging them X amount of money because it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. That's it. I think that's what people really don't understand. There's an attitude that you know, the designers, developers, you know, we all have these massive shiny Macs or computer, whatever you use. And like for me as a designer, I've got this Mac with a big red button in the middle that says design. Press that button and poof, there's an amazing, you know, design that answers all of the tick boxes on the brief, just appears out of nowhere. And it's like, it couldn't be further from the truth. Like most of my like meteor projects start with a pencil and a piece of paper, and the ideas are started at that point, and it's a long time before they actually get to the point of being put into a computer to be digitized. It's a process, and people often say, well, that's a lot of money. And the answer is, well, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of training, it's a lot of learning, it's a lot of skill and experience that go into being able to do what you and I do. And that is ultimately what you're paying for.
So to interject there, it's the finishing touches that cost the money, that take the time. If you have a very nice design, really, you could have one that's cost you £10,000 for a flyer or something, a lot of money. Yeah. You could move a few things around a little bit, a few pixels out, and it will look wrong. You could change the colors; they don't quite complement each other slightly, and it would look wrong. So if you rush something and something's not quite right, all the client will see is a flyer that looks wrong. You have before you present it to somebody, it has to be perfect. Yeah. Plus, of course, when we go through a design process, I don't know how Design Picth works entirely, but when we go through a design process, we don't just give somebody a design. Just like if you went to a kitchen show, a B&Q, or wherever you want to go to, they don't give you a picture of a kitchen you're going to get. They'll give you wireframes of how your cupboards are going to be laid out and paint swatches, and they'll ask you, do you want a silver handle or a gold handle? And they ask all these questions, give you all these swatches, and all these before you even they know what you want.
Yeah. I think what we do, we get under the bonnet of a business and really sort of understand the inner workings of that company. And we asked, like, I think I mentioned it this morning, we were on our networking call. The reason that professionals should be asking you questions like difficult but powerful questions like why, what, who, where, when, how, rather than just sort of providing you something that looks pretty, because I think the aesthetics against effectiveness are quite key in what you do in the digital space. Could you elaborate on any of that?
I think the questions, the who, where, why, what, is a very, very powerful one. So, I mean, we do it all the time. So, airlines, Ryanair, Emirates Air, BA, they're completely different airlines with a completely different business model. And if you just said, I'm an airline, design me a logo. Simple as that. Make me a logo. Yeah. You could give Ryanair Emirates logo and it would look wrong. You could give Emirates Ryanair's logo and it would look wrong. They're both good logos. They both do exactly what they're supposed to do. Ryanair and EasyJet are meant to have cheap looking logos.
Yep.
Emirates and BA are not meant to have cheap looking logos. Yeah. And you could say the same with lots of other products and what they do. So without those questions as to why you are special, who your target market is, it's not going to help. Garages, exactly the same. So you have a car dealer, they sell cars. Kia, their whole marketing budget, maybe not their budget, but their brand guidelines, the way they look, how expensive they look, is completely different to Jaguar. It's completely different to Ferrari because they've got a completely different customer set. And it's not just a case of Ferrari is a better brand than Kia or Ford. It's not. It's different. It's aimed at a different market. And just like you couldn't put a Ford logo on a Ferrari, it wouldn't look right. You couldn't put a Ferrari logo on a Ford either. Yeah. That would look wrong. So I think that the questions that we ask in the process that we go through, that's where you're sort of paying for the expertise to arrive at the brand in the long run. Some of the big companies, you get all the big PLCs, they can spend months and millions of pounds coming up with a logo because they need to find one that perfectly fits their brand. And by their brand, I don't mean their colors. I mean their brand as a company, what their values are, and who their clients are, and everything else.
Yeah, I think you touched on it there, like looking at the target audience. There ain't like these brands that you mentioned are all aimed at different target markets. So ultimately the reason we ask these sorts of questions is so we can really truly fully understand that target market and create something that is fit for it. So as you say, like sticking a Ford badge on a Ferrari is just never going to work in a million years. People are not going to buy that car if they are looking for a Ferrari. They just won't buy it because the badge will be wrong. So understanding what the purpose and end goal is really important, and that is ultimately why you need to work with your designer rather than have them just churning out stuff for you, or your designer, developer, whoever it is. So I think attitude to purchasing services across the board is much more aggressively focused on price nowadays. How have you found that, Aaron?
Especially, yeah, I think that's it. This is weird. We've got some clients who they don't come to us because we're cheap. They come to us because they want it done correctly. So one, I won't mention a company name, but they had a website we didn't build, we edited it for them. And they had something in the footer of their website and they wanted it moved 40 pixels to the left. And we said to them, we didn't design the template, but we can move it 30 or 25 or 30 pixels to the left. It will take us 5 minutes, not a problem. Yep. Or we can move it exactly 40 pixels to the left, but that means changing the template and changing the template of the other pages and the menu and so on and so forth. It all sort of inherits off each other.
Yeah.
That's going to take us about a day and a half.
Yeah.
And for them, they said, we want you to do what we said, move it 40 pixels to the left.
Yeah.
But they are the exception to the rule, I think. They are the people, they want it done their way. They don't care what it costs. They just want it.
You want it right.
Ferrari customers, they don't care what it costs. They want it to look shiny. They want it done that way. Yeah. But then most people, the run of the mill, you and I kind of people don't want that. And you do people, what's your best price? And I mean, it's quite tough because people always expect a discount on things. But we're probably going to get to this anyway in the conversation, but we don't do speculative work. And I believe, in my opinion, any decent designer, web designer, graphic designer doesn't do speculative work. And we don't, negotiation with us, we hardly ever negotiate. That's our price. We price it at that point for a reason. But these days, people are being, they're not tight with their money. I think people have got to be cautious because you don't know what's going around the corner at the moment. So we're finding a lot of our work at the moment is just people have a smaller budget. Then we said, that's fine. Let's revise what we can give you for that budget.
No, I think it's very true. That is it. You've got to be careful, and there's nothing wrong with asking for a good price and a good deal, and confirming that you're getting good value for what you're spending. There's nothing wrong with that. And what I don't want this podcast to sort of come across is that you and I are sat here in our respective offices, sort of having a good old whinge about people not wanting to pay us well for what we do very well. It's not about that. I think it's more looking at speculative work and the attitude that you do the work and then you work out if you're going to get paid or not. It's not about that. It's very much about people's attitude to how they buy from people like you and I. So I think at the other end of the scale there, you gave that example of your Ferrari customer. At the other end of the scale, you've got people like the chappie who contacted me. And I think part of the attitude that people have now is because there's websites like Fiverr, for example, or freelancer.com, where you can go on, post a brief, a really shitty brief as well. I've seen some of them written on there that are just so vague. And people like freelancers will pitch for that work, and it is literally a race to the bottom. And people see that, and those websites they market those websites ridiculously. Everyone's heard of them, and it drives down prices, and it makes it harder for good quality professionals to justify what they charge. Have you ever had any experience of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had one customer, again, I remain nameless, and they went to somebody, they asked us for a price of a shop and we gave them a price. They went to somebody literally half price. And it's getting to the point where they say, can you knock your price down? We're like, no, not only can we not do it for that price, I cannot believe anyone will give you the spec that you want for that price. Off this person goes, off she goes, comes back a year later, I didn't get what I wanted, how much to fix it, and pays us to fix it. But it cost us more to fix it than the difference would have been anyway. But with this particular customer, if you need another one in a few years' time, how much? And we gave her a price. Yeah, but this one's company's doing it for half the price. And you went through exactly the same thing again. Then she comes back, can you fix it? And we do a lot of expert witness work. We take on half-finished projects. And that is where people have, I'll say people have been ripped off by their web designer, but their web designer has maybe bitten off more than they can chew or underestimated the spec. And we find it tough that because I listen to what the customer says and I figure out what I think they want in their head. And this is what I'm good at. This is what my job is. So I know exactly what they want. I give them a price for what they want, not what I want to give them. So that way they're not going to be disappointed. But you get other people saying, I can give you that for half the price.
Yeah.
But if we go to a car, if you get somebody go to a BMW showroom, they want that £20,000 BMW, it's going to cost them 20,000. They can go to another BMW shop, or they can go to Auto Trader. They might get it for 18, they might get it for 22. Yes. But they're not going to get it for 5. And if they do, there's going to be something wrong with it. It's not going to be a BMW.
It's only going to have 3 wheels.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And like a website isn't a website, and a design, whatever it is designed, a logo, a flyer, isn't just a flyer. Just like a car isn't a car. If that is the case, and anyone thinks that is the case, go and swap your thousands of pounds car, and I'll find you one for £200, and we'll swap. They both got 4 doors and they both drive, but they do completely different things. And it's hard getting that across to people. And especially with what we do, most people go for graphic design or web design as part of a marketing campaign. Not always, but most of the time they do. Yeah. Marketing's there to make you money. And sometimes you have to pay that bit to give the right image that you want to get your return on investment. So you could spend a search engine optimization company £10,000 to get all these people to your website. And if they get there and they don't like what they see, you've thrown it away. Just like if you don't answer the phone or you're rude to people or whatever, you're going to throw it away. So I think that's a really big factor.
And you touched on something there. You mentioned when you were talking about you listen, you ask those big questions, those powerful questions: why, how, what, when, all of those big powerful questions. You ask those and you listen to it and you get the answers, you digest that information and you give them what they want. You give them what they need, not what they want. And that is really key. That is, I think, to this whole sort of purchasing process, understanding what people need and giving them what they need rather than what they've seen and what they think they want.
It's worth noting here as well that they're giving people what they want or what they need isn't always about charging people more money. We had one lady at our networking group contact me the other day and she wanted a particular system. And I'm like, you can pay me all this money to make it, but here's an off-the-shelf one that is going to completely cut me out the loop, but is going to cost an absolute fraction of the price and will do better than any web designer you can pay for £50 a month or £100 a month or whatever it was. So you give them that advice. So it's not always about taking money. It's about, we're here to give people what they ask for and to give them the best advice we can.
No, definitely.
About trust, I think.
Massively powerful word, that trust. And it goes both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah. If people want a cheap design, a cheap website, the best way of doing it is trusting the person that's building it for them. Because if you get someone that second guesses all the things that you do, it adds time, it adds complexity, and it's going to end up for a worse result. If you get somebody, I want you to wrap my car for me, Gareth. We don't do car wraps, so I'd have to go to someone else, but I want to wrap my car. If I start telling you I want things on that pillar and you say it's not going to work, and I say, well, can we put something there and it's not going to work? It's not my field of expertise, so why would I interrupt you? If I say, I want you to make a wrap for my car, I am not going to interfere at all. I'm just going to let you do your job. Then that is an easy, therefore cheaper job for you to do than having to argue with me effectively all the way through.
100%. Trust is key in this sort of thing. You need to get someone that you can trust. And they also, as a designer, I need to trust that my clients trust me, they understand that I'm working hard to get a good result for them, because this only adds to my portfolio. My portfolio sells me, so I need to make sure that portfolio is as good as it possibly can be. And having trust of your clients is very, very important. So when you get so you've got your Ferrari customers that have a lot of trust in you, understand the questions you ask, and everything's going swimmingly well. When you get a client who maybe isn't in that bracket of Ferrari customer, I find that there isn't a lot of room to negotiate because people aren't necessarily patient enough to listen to why this is the reason I'm advising you to do this and I'm charging you this. Do you think that the pace of life is maybe affecting that ability for people to listen and understand why we work the way we do?
Yeah, we've got some customers who they're lovely people, but they just don't have time necessarily to read all the emails you send them. So one of them, he's unfortunately he's passed away now, but one of our best clients we've ever had. He turned into a friend. We've been to his birthday party. We are where we are because of this client called John. He was fantastic, but he used to say to us, he just didn't have time to read emails. So we had to give him the long answer because that's our advice. But we used to give him bold letters, short answer, and one line what he needs to read, long answer, explained it like we need to if he wants the detail. And all of our emails went like that. But he trusted us, which is why we got on. But he would quite often just read the one-liner, or unless he wanted to know more. But yeah, I think as long as you know the client, you know where you are with the client. What you can't have is a client that will not read your emails, give you one-line replies, you give them one-line replies, and then expect it to go the way that they want it to without listening to you, if that makes sense. It can work. It's just knowing. I think that's just striking a balance and choosing someone you get on with that we get on because we're quite similar people, and it's nice to have clients that you get on with. I think the whole back to the trust thing. If you like somebody and you trust somebody, then you're more likely to get on with them, and the project's going to go better. It's just adjusting the way you work to the way that they work.
It's that clarity of communication, meeting in the middle. Everyone maybe conceding a little bit here or there just to sort of get jobs over the line. But that relationship is really important, isn't it? So
we also find that speccing things out at the beginning, not doing a speculative design, just throwing things at people, actually taking a step back, planning what they need. Then if we do that, if we give somebody a design, let's just say we designed a website now and we gave it to a client and they're going to say they don't want that, can you change that? You don't want that, you're going to change this. And you're going to end up having so much admin, you end up redoing it 5 times. If you don't do the speculative design and you actually start doing the website properly and you plan what they need and you listen to them and you have a meeting and you find out who their customers are and everything that you should be doing as a designer, then what you make is going to hit the mark. That's exactly the point. So they're not going to be a difficult customer because you've done things the right way. So that's another reason why not to do the speculative design, because if you're doing that, you're forced to miss out all the really crucial steps that are going to make your relationship smooth. Or it's better to have all those steps all the way through, and then everything always goes swimmingly.
Definitely. I think at this point it's probably worthwhile just jumping in and explaining what we've used the phrase speculative work, spec work quite a lot in this chat so far. Speculative work is work that you are doing speculatively, if I get my words out, in the hope that someone will like it and therefore pay you for it. So it's doing work that you have either not been asked to do, so you do some work to present to someone in the hope that they will say, yes, I like that, yes, I will buy it from you, or you've been asked by someone to produce a design and if I like it, I will pay you for it. That is speculative work. There is another phrase for this sort of transaction that's bandied around a lot in design circles, which is pitch work. So it's exactly that. It's basically tends to happen with larger brands. Larger brands and businesses will put a pitch out to the industry and invite people to take part in the pitch. So effectively what that means is design agencies will produce a large pitch document presentation and present it however requested by the client, in the hope that that client will choose them out of, typically you get anything from 3 to 6 to 9 agencies all going for the one project. That is a pitch. That's exactly the same as spec work. Now, a lot of the time, these sorts of projects can be free. Occasionally, you will get paid pitch works, which will cover you for X amount of your time. And I've got a good friend of mine who interviewed on this podcast who does quite a lot of that stuff, but will only engage with paid pitches. You wouldn't touch spec work or pitch work with a barge pole, would you, mate?
Not the free stuff, no, because I don't get anything wrong. I'll happily, it's not the time element. I will happily get on a train and go to Edinburgh and have a day meeting and stay in a hotel and tell people what I will do to them. It's not the time or the money. It's the fact that I can't give them what they're after instantly like that. We do speculative pitch work in a way, but not for design, for technical projects. We call it a feasibility study. It is paid for. Sometimes it's subsidized, but it is paid for. So if somebody wants a really, slightly off topic, but if somebody wants a really big project doing, they want a really big project doing and they want a price for it. We can't give them a price until we know the spec. And that spec could take us a week to make. So a builder could quote you for a patio or for an extension. They couldn't quote you to build a skyscraper. They'd need architect's plans. So we charge for those architect's plans effectively to say this is what we want so we can get quotes. But doing it, people don't seem to be as responsive as that for designs. We do that for technical work and people seem to understand it. The biggest way I think for somebody who's not in the industry to realize how hard, impossible at times it is to do speculative work for free is if you went to every estate agent in Salisbury or whatever town you're in and you say, I want to buy a house. I'm not telling you what my budget is, or pretty much what I want 3 bedrooms. That's all I'm telling you. Can you list me your best houses? But also pretend that job takes them 2 days to do, or 3 days to do, or a week to do. And then all these estate agents, some of them are going to give you a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom house in a housing estate. Some are going to give you a 3-bedroom house with 50 acres of land and a stables. And you say, well, that one's got it because I wanted stables. It's like, well, how would they know that unless you told them in the beginning? That's why when you go to an estate agent, you tell them what you want and your budget, and you're open with them, and they can actually then give you the best house that suits you.
It's understanding, isn't it? Understanding what you're being asked to do. It's trust, it's a relationship, it's a process. Your blog is brilliant, and it really does cover all of this. And in that blog, you also touch on how if people are prepared to do speculative work for free, does that mean that they are covering their time by charging over the odds for hourly rates for other projects for other clients?
They must be. So let's just say a person wants to bring, let's just make it easy. Let's just self-employed people. We've got no overheads, no staff. If that person wants to bring back so many £1,000 a month, that's their wage. And they spend half of their time doing speculative work. They would have to spend the other half of that time charging other people more to pay for that speculative work. It's simple, and you do find that you would add it onto another project. We don't, because we don't do the work, but you have no choice. People want to be fed. They have to make the money somehow.
I mean, it's pretty obvious, really, and a lot of time when people are going through the process of trying to buy services like this, they don't think about it like that. They don't think about it, do they? Working with companies that do things on the hoof for free, their clients are being charged through the nose potentially to cover that time. So I'm going to throw something out here that is potentially quite controversial, but I know you like a bit of controversy. So
I'm not afraid of it. Go on.
So, is this a millennial thing? Is there a shift in mindset where people want to take maximum out with minimum in? Is it a millennial thing? Is it a generation thing where people want to get rich quick? People see Conor McGregor, for example, the MMA fighter. Every time he does a post on Instagram, they reckon he's earning $250,000 because there's always a sponsorship element to it. I've got my step-nephew I think he's 19, coming up 20 this year. And when he was 17, we sat down and we were chatting one day, and he said, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm going to be an MMA fighter. I was like, all right. Have you ever punched anybody in your life before? No. But Conor McGregor, every time he does a MMA post, he earns hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I looked into it, and yes, he is right. They reckon Conor McGregor's earning tons of money doing it. But that get rich quick mentality is that driving it. Now, what he doesn't see is the fact that Conor McGregor has spent the best part of 10 to 15 years getting punched in the head to get to where he is. And people don't see that. They see the instant sort of fix of like Instagram fame. Is there that sort of maximum out, minimum in attitude driving this sort of demand for?
I don't think it's the, I think the way of life, the millennial thing to some degree, I don't think it's the get rich quick. The reason I don't think that, why it's a generation thing, is a lot of the people that ask this are not young. They could be older than me. The roofer, how old was he, out of interest?
He seemed about, I never met him. He was only on the phone. So, but from listening to him, I reckon he's about ass. I mean, we're sorry, my wife's just coming in. So we'll have to cut that out and on the edit. Yeah, so the guy I was speaking to, he was probably about our age.
Yeah, so the millennial thing wouldn't work on that respect. Yeah. However, I think there's a lot of this, a lot has changed recently in the fact that people don't understand the web. The web is a new industry. Well, I'm 42. Mm-hmm. I started making websites when I was at uni to fund my way through university. So that was in 1998-ish. Yeah. And people knew nothing about it. So in my lifetime, I have gone from no internet, and I've stayed with the internet. It's been my life, to obviously being pretty, knowing it very, very well at the moment. So I understand how these things work, just like I'd imagine you do with graphic design. Yeah. I think the problem is, for most people, they don't understand why things cost what they do, where the time goes involved. Even graphic design, I mean, people have been designing things for a long time, but graphic design, as you would call it, is relatively new as a concept, compared to what people were doing in the past. Yeah. Everything's digital to start with. Yeah. And I think the fact that people just don't understand it. If you ask them whatever industry they do, get them to do something for free for the speculative work, they wouldn't dream of it. But it's different because it's tangible. Or even an art's a good one. Someone carving something out of a bit of wood. You wouldn't expect them to do that. Yeah. Or can you give me a rough idea? Because people understand how long that's going to take, and they understand that they can't do it. But people now think they've seen a GoDaddy website builder or a Wix website builder, or they see Fiverr, and they think that you can just do these things yourself or get someone else to do them really easy. Yeah. They don't understand the detail and the work that goes into what we do. Yeah,
I think as well, like you touched on there, like there's nothing tangible about what we do. There's not a physical thing, like you're not selling that pen. People see something that they can pick up and hold. There's a cost attributed to that is worth something. But when you've got a logo doesn't really exist anywhere until you put it on a sign, maybe. It doesn't physically exist anywhere. A website doesn't physically manifest itself. You can see it on a screen, but you can't pick it up and hold it. And I think that is that's what people are buying. People are buying what they see on the screen, on that interface on the screen with a website. But what they're paying for is the work that goes into the back end of that website to drive it, to make it appear. And that's a really fundamental thing that people miss, I think.
A good example would be, remember when Orange, the phone network, came out? Yeah. They had an orange box with orange written in it. It was just, that was it. That was their logo. Mm-hmm. And it used to say, "The future's bright, the future's orange." I remember this. How?
I remember it.
And then it used to disappear. And at that point, everyone's, "What? Who's Orange?" No one knew what they did. That logo cost them, I don't know exactly the money, but millions and millions. The whole advertising campaign did. But people know it. And people were, "Who's Orange?" People wanted Orange before they knew what Orange was.
Yeah.
That's the power. And can you make me a logo? If you gave that to a box with orange in it, it's meant to be mysterious. That's the point.
That's the point.
And I think that's the thing. If you just gave that to someone and say, "Hey, here's a logo," they'd be like, "What? Why does that cost me £2 million?"
Yeah.
A lot of work would have gone into that. And Coca-Cola's logo, probably one of the most famous in the world, or Apple's logo. Yeah. I mean, they're trademark. They're worth an obscene amount of money, probably billions, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
It's amazing what just a logo, what it can do.
Because that's it, you've said it there. It's not just a logo; it's what that logo allows you to do with it. The lady who designed the Nike swoosh, the swoop graphic. I think she charged the guy. I can't remember the guy's name. Who was it? I can't remember his name. Anyway, $35 she charged for that. And they never envisaged the success Nike would have with that brand identity. And years later, he gifted her shares of like $600,000, you know, to recompense her for the work that she did in creating such an iconic mark. And you know, the things that you and I create are often the very first things that people will come across when they interact with a business. And you know, I often say to people, well, if your brand, your logo is going to be at the forefront of your business, it's going to be on your website, your uniforms, your stationery, your business card, your leaflets, your flyers, you give away pens, you give away mugs. It's literally going to be seen on all your social media. It's going to be the first thing that people look at, see, recognizes you, and you're probably going to have that logo for 10 years. So if someone charges you $1,000 to design it, and design it well so it lasts for 10 years, that is an investment in the identity and fabric of your brand and business. So I think
if you think of it per usage, is what you think that even per platform, how much is that costing you per thing you've put it on, like per t-shirt or per pen or per website view? It makes me think back when I was, must have been a long time ago, before we had the internet. I wanted to get my car insurance, so I went to the yellow pages, which seems like ridiculous these days. But you look through the listing of all the car insurers that are out there.
Yeah.
You have nothing. You had one-liners and you had the big boxes.
Yeah.
I would choose one. As you go through it and you choose one you want to call based on the look of the advert, the style, the logo. Yeah. Nothing else. You wouldn't. That was just a line of text. I'm not going to phone them. I'm going to phone that one because they've got Churchyard, a dog or something. That's a nice dog. I'm going to phone them. Hence why Money Supermarket and we have the meerkats and all these. This brand identity is why you choose them. People do exactly the same on a website. This is why compare the you've got the meerkats and they've got the whole website comparing meerkats, which is nothing apart from brand. But people do the same when they go to a website. They look at it for open up this window, this window, this window. Don't like that one, don't like that one, don't like that one, like that one. And all they're doing is dismissing you based on 3 seconds of how it looks. Business cards, exactly the same in flyers. When you go to an estate agent, you've got the flyers from the houses. You'll just look at the picture of the house on the front. If the house doesn't look good, it may be a better house, but it doesn't look good. People do the same with business cards after a networking. You know, you've got all your business cards lined up in your box. Yeah, that looks nice. I'm gonna phone that guy. Yeah, because they've taken the effort. They've made the effort to portray themselves with a credibility that attracts the attention and makes you look at them and think they look like they care about what they are coming across like. They look professional. They're saying the right things. The logo looks good. The strap line looks good. Going through that process there, looking at adverts, it's exactly the same process you go through when you're looking at different websites. It's just a different medium, isn't it? But we're all drawn to things that look nice and appealing and portray that business in the right light. We do the same with people as well. So I'm wearing a t-shirt now. It's lockdown. I'm allowed to. Yeah, it's like, let me off. I'm sitting in my house. I'm not going to put a suit on. But normally when I go to a networking meeting, I wear smart jeans, polished shoes. You have your nails are cut nice, and you wear a nice shirt. I don't wear a tie. I don't think it's a creative thing to do. Don't wear a suit. I also don't turn up in flip-flops and shorts. It wouldn't change my ability to do my job either way. Yeah. But it's an impression. There's, again, completely nameless, but I went to another networking event and there was another web designer there. He had shoes on and a jacket, but his shoes weren't polished. They were covered in mud. And his trousers didn't fit him and they had grubby knees. And his shirt hadn't, it looked like it came from Matalan, had the lines folded on it. And he was wearing, on paper, more than I was. He was wearing, he was dressed in a suit and I wasn't dressed. I was dressed in jeans. Yeah. But you just didn't look professional. And it's those finishing touches that you have that you get in design. That's a nice way of explaining it. And that's what it boils down to, I think. Yeah, I think like what we do, it's like a uniform for your business, isn't it? It's a digital uniform for your brand. And it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because when I go to networking meetings, I wear pretty much exactly what you just said there. Nice polished shoes, smart jeans, shirt, always tucked in, unless it's, not it's like a short. You just go the extra. I mean, I sit in here, I'm tracky bottoms and a polo t-shirt.
You know, occasionally, quite often actually, I'll go to a network meeting and I'll have a polo t-shirt on, but it's got a collar and it's got the company brand on it. So, you know, that's a hell of a lot more professional than you see some people going to. It is important. It is really important, but that credibility that your brand demands, really. And people who say, I haven't got a brand, they're wrong, because if you've got a reputation, you've got a brand. And that's interesting, because that is a topic that we're going to be covering in a few weeks on the podcast, actually, on the subject of brands and reputation. So we won't go in too much into that. I'm conscious of time, though, so going to the sort of wrap up stage on our chat today, takeaways from today, I think, on speculative work and how people buy from designers, developers, people working in the creative spaces. What would you sort of say to people who are looking to engage with operators in that area?
First and foremost, find somebody that you like, you trust, you get on with, you click. You're going to have to work a lot with this designer. If you don't like them, you don't choose them. Find one you like, and before you even talk about anything else, they don't be guided on price. Be guided on recommendations. Do your homework. Find out. Don't ask them to give you speculative work, but do your homework on them. See if they've done anything similar. Speak to them. Most designers should chat to you and give you an hour or two of their time, just having a discussion to say whether they, just having an introductory and saying whether they can help you and what they suggest that you do. I like watching Judge Judy on telly. She always says, if it doesn't make sense, it's probably not true. And use that logic. So if you think someone's trying to put a fast one on you, they probably are.
Yeah.
This is why recommendations and networking go so well. So if you can get recommended to somebody that is a similar personality to you, and they say, go with Gareth because he's brilliant and he did this for me, you can see the work, you can ask them about the process. I wouldn't be taking your word for it, then I'll be asking this customer. So I'd say choose people based on what they have done in the past, and whether you like them will get you a lot further than asking them to just mock something up for you, which they're probably not going to put their heart and soul into it, and they couldn't do a good job if they wanted to. And if anyone does give you speculative design, I'd be questioning whether they're good at what they do, because a good designer or anyone creative should be asking you questions before they could even contemplate giving you a design.
Yeah, I think that's really key. That so it's know, like, and trust. It's that old BNI adage, but it is true. If you get to know them, you like them, you trust them, that's a good sort of basis for a good relationship. The one I always say is look at their portfolio. If you like what you see, they will probably work well for you. If you don't like what they've done in the past, then that paints another picture, doesn't it? So you'll probably want to walk away. I've lost my trail of thought, Aaron. Completely lost.
I'll interject, and if you want, when you're thinking again. So it's also worth noting, when you look at reviews, nothing will beat a testimonial from somebody that you both know. If you can get one of your friends to recommend somebody, nothing can beat that. But if you have to go along the lines of Facebook, Google, Trustpilot, that kind of thing, the only one that I know of that absolutely cannot be manipulated is Google reviews. If you make a bad Google review about somebody, they cannot take it down unless it's malicious or obscene or something like that. Facebook ones, you can take it down. Trustpilot ones, you can take down. So Google reviews are a very good way. Just double check that the people that are reviewing them aren't the same surname, all the staff that work there and things like that.
Yeah. Literally, you could have reached through the screen and pulled that out of my head, because that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking about saying there. So thank you for that. Completely lost the trail of thought in my own mind there. So Aaron, that was great to talk to you about this, because it's such a weird subject, and you will get designers, developers, creative people in that media space get quite protective and defensive around speculative work. But hopefully today's chat has gone some way to explaining why people are so hesitant and reluctant to engage in this sort of work. There's some takeaways for business people in general, and also for creatives and media people out there who are torn as to whether they should do this or whether they shouldn't. And I think from what we've discussed today, the answer is no, don't do it. Don't engage with it. You want clients that work with you and not people that you work with your clients, not for them. So
on the other side of the coin, I think you get, as a customer, I think you'll get a better end result by not choosing the person that gives you a speculative design, because they're more than likely to be somebody who's doing it because they haven't got the work. Why haven't they got the work? Normally they're trying to pitch for that work because they've just started out, or they haven't got the good reputation. So normally if someone's got a waiting list and they're busy and they won't do that, they're normally going to give you a better job. So
yeah,
it works both ways.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Aaron. We'll wrap it up at that point. It's been great chatting to you, and I will make sure I put all of your contact details and a link to your blog into the show notes as well. And we'll wrap up at that. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.